Okay, so I think I will start with a new reading. Today is about reading 45 about introduction to asset-backed securities. So for this one is one of the most difficult reading for me, like to understand all of the knowledge on this reading is kind of very difficult because it's kind of it's kind of new for me, I think. Okay, there are some questions. I think I need to do it quickly on this reading. First of all, about economic benefits of securitization least likely include. We just remember least okay. A, reducing excessive lending by banks. B, reducing fund costs for firms that securitize assets. C, increasing the liquidity of the underlying financial assets. Okay, for this one, to answer these questions correctly, we need to analyze each of the answer of this question. Okay, we will do it with the answer number C, increasing the liquidity of the underlying financial assets. Yes, so normally, because for example, when I want to buy a house, but I do not have much money. Do not have enough money to buy a house, so I need to go to the bank and said I want to lend some money to buy the house, and okay, the bank will lend and sorry, you want to borrow, not lend, you want to borrow money from the bank, and the bank will lend you some money, and lend you some money, and maybe for 30 years, and they will have the right to take your house away if you do not pay the interest or principal of the payment of the loan on time. Okay, so all these kind of houses or cars or credit cards, we call that assets backed securities. Okay, so when we like, there are a lot of people that often go to the bank and borrow money to buy house, to buy cars, or to buy or even a loan. So banks will use this kind of loan and securitize these want to be securities, and we call this one a backed asset-backed securities. We just remember how we called that the asset-backed securities. So if for not normally, it's very difficult. Like if you want, we just like like the just a house, just a paper that like, okay, you will pay all the principal and interest during 30 years for this kind of loan to buy a house. And if normally, if you want to sell this kind of like business to people, like as a bond, and then they will invest in your bond, is very difficult because they do not know how to get the benefit from this kind of bond. But if you securitize this bond, this kind of like documents, this kind of assets, like people will understand about the, okay, I will get the payment, I will get the benefit from from buying these kind of assets, by these kind of bonds, so it will increase the liquidity of the underlying financial assets. So normally if you do not securitize this kind of loan, and you just keep all the papers on the bank, and it's just put it in the bank and just do nothing, okay, do nothing. But now you securitize this kind of loan, and you will can get more money from the investor, because when you sell this kind of bonds, investor will buy it and you will get money, and so you will have more money to lend out to lend out to new to new borrowers. And so that why reducing funding costs for the firms that securitize assets. So CNB is not that is a correct one, but now we want to find the least one. So reducing excessive lending by the banks. It's not, because why? Because when they sell these kind of bonds, banks will have more money to lend out to the borrower, to borrowers. Okay, so question number 2. In a securitization, the issuer of assets-backed securities is best described as A, SPE. We know SPE is special purpose entity. C, the seller, and B is the seller, and C, the servicer. So we need to understand about this one. Okay, I will explain a little bit about this one. SPE, special purpose entity, is the people like, for example, this Vietcombank. They have a lot of loans from the borrowers, so they, with the assets back securities, they will sell this kind of loans to a special purpose entity. For example, like Fadimac. Fadimac is a organization, is backed by American government, for example, for this one. And this one will buy all the loan from Vietinbank, all the loans from Vietinbank, and they will package these loan to a asset-backed securities and sell, and then special purpose entity will sell this kind of package, this kind of like asset-backed security to investor. And for example, is actually not the investor actually is not direct investor like us. Normally the investors would be like Lehman Brothers. So Lehman Brothers is one of the oldest bank in the oldest and the biggest bank in the US, and very big one, is super big one. Or maybe some pension insurance companies. Yeah, so they will buy this kind of assets-backed securities from special purpose entity. And later, for example, there's a Lehman Brothers, and this is maybe pension company. They buy these kind of assets-backed securities from special purpose entity, and they will sell these kind of bonds to the investor, maybe to me, or to some kind of individual people, maybe. Yes, is kind of, so mostly an organization will buy these kind of a bond. Okay, so we got this one. We know the special purpose entity. And now the seller here is, the seller actually is a person who sell the assets to special purpose entity. So in this case, the banks, because they have a lot of loan. For example, we can take the loan for mortgage. So we have a lot of mortgage from the bank. The banks have a lot of mortgage from the borrowers, and so the banks will sell this kind of mortgage to special purpose entity. So we call this one, the bank is a seller. Okay, the next one we have the servicer. So servicer is the kind of like party that receive or collect money, payments, interest and principal from borrowers to the banks, and the banks from borrowers. So but if the banks still handle this one, if the banks still is the party who will collect principal and interest that will be paid by the borrowers, so the banks is also called the servicers. So in this case, the banks will be the sellers and also will be the servicers on this one. So in a securitization, in this question, the issuer of asset-backed securities is best described as the special purpose entity. Yeah, but just remember that is not the seller and the servicer. In this case, the same party is a bank, but most of the case is not. The servicers and the seller is not the same. Maybe the bank will like just sell this to and another party, or another party will collect the money from the borrowers, and this one we call the servicer. And to understand about this one more, I think I will read a little bit here on the book about the servicer. Okay, where is this? Okay, so we have the service the loan. Okay, so the next question about the question number 3, a mortgage-backed security with a senior or subordinated structure is said to feature A, time trunking, B, credit trunking, C, a pass-through structure. This one is very difficult to understand. Okay, let me explain a little bit about the about asset-backed securities we have. So normally we called all the assets that will be backed up as a securities. We call this asset-backed securities. It include car loan, credit card loan, and even receivable loan, or also can call like mortgage loan as well. But all of these kind of loan will be called an asset. But if like the loan is for buying houses, we called this one mortgage backed securities. Okay, for this one it's very specialist because actually a lot of people, when they buy a house, they will borrow money from the bank. So there are a lot of people borrow money from the banks to buy a house. We know the house bubble in 2018 in America. This is related to this lesson. This reading is also about mortgage-backed security, and there is a very famous movie named The Big Short. The Big Short is a very famous one. But to understand about this movie, you have at least some knowledge about asset-backed securities to understand all the terms on and the conversation on that movie. Okay, to answer this question, so we have time changing and credit changing, a pass-through structure. So time tranching, so we need to explain. I think I need to explain a little bit about time waterfall structure. So what is time tranching? Okay, let me explore time tranching. Is okay. Waterfall structure. Okay, sorry. So time tranching is that, okay, time tranching is like we have class A, class B, and class C. So for like bonds and in assets securities, we have kind of like several classes, like tranches. Like for example, classes A, B, and C, or A plus, BB plus, for example, like this. So with the tranches like this, is we also call, like, of course A will the highest, and then just lower, C and D the lowest. And so with these kind of classes or kind of tranches, we have like when we pay the payment or the coupon, for example, coupon to the investor. So we will pay to the class A first, and then to the class B or class BB or class BB plus, like this. We need to start from A to B and to C and to D. So we call this one a time tranching. Time chanting, or we also call waterfall structure. Okay, so this one called a waterfall structure. Why the same? Credit tranching or time tranching. Okay, I think I need to understand about. I think I will check it out later a little bit about time tranching and credit tranching. So credit tranching is something like we call senior or subordinated. Like subordinated is credit tranching for standards for if there any lose from investing on these kind of like asset backed securities. So subordinated will be suffer from this lost first, and then to the next level. For example, like we have an example, like we have a asset backed securities with the senior like 10 million US dollar, and we have subordinated chanting A for example 5 million, and we have subordinated chanting B for 4 million. And then if there any loss from this investing, so the subordinated chanting B will suffer first, and then level up to A and then to senior. Okay, this one is also kind of like the same, just like backward, like time trending. I think I will give more information about time trending and credit trending about this one. And a path through structure. A path through structure is kind of like you have so many mortgage, you have loan mortgage, you have car mortgage, you have house mortgage, and for example like this, and you have like mortgage like this, for example, just the example, and we just put in a pool, this one a pool, and we put all the mortgage or all kind of mortgage in a pool, and then we just like slide all the portion, the same portion, and we will sell it to the investor. All the investor have the same portion, and they are mixed so many kind of mortgage, so we call that one is mortgage passed through, mortgage passed mortgage passed through, or passed through mortgage. Okay, for this one. And just remember that for this pass through mortgage, we have some kind of like very high standard. For example, like the mortgage need to have a long maturity, so we can put together like this. And the mortgage also have a leverage to ratio with a standard. Yes, it's kind of like that. So all these kind of standard, even a maximum size or minimum documentation required, for example like this, we will package together and put in a pool, and we slide and sell it to the investor. So we call it pass through structure. Okay, for this kind of mortgage, for this kind of loans that do not meet these kind of standards, we call that one a non-agency RMBS. Okay, is okay. The next question, so I think I will finish, is faster a little bit. A mortgage that has a balloon payment equal to the original loan principal is A, a convertible mortgage, B, a fully amortizing mortgage, C, an interest only lifetime mortgage. So for example, a fully amortizing mortgage, for example, you borrowed 10 million dollar, and you will pay it in 10 years. So each year you will pay for some part of principal, and also will pay for interest as well. And every year you will pay the same amount of this with principal and plus with interest. So we call this kind of payment as a fully amortizing mortgage. But for an interest only lifetime mortgage, is mean like you will pay for interest every year without any principal, and at the end of the maturity you will pay a balloon or a lump sum of principal to the bank for you will pay 10 million to the bank, but every year you only pay for the interest. Okay, this one, a mortgage that has a balloon payment equal to all original loan principal is an interest only lifetime mortgage. Okay, the next question: residential mortgages that may be included in agency RMBS are least likely required to have a minimum loan to value ratio, insurance on a mortgage property, a minimum percentage down payment. So I just talked about this before. So for MBS, for a pass-through mortgage or MBS, we need to have some kind of standard about minimum percentage down payment, maximum loan to ratio, loan to value ratio, minimum size, minimum documentation required, and insurance purchased by the borrower. Okay, so without these kind of standards, we call RMBS. Okay, so this one in RMBS is a minimum loan to value ratio. No, a minimum, least. Yeah, for MBS you have minimum, you need to have maximum loan to value ratio. Okay, but this minimum, yes, it is a RMBS. Insurance on mortgage property. Okay, see a minimum percentage down payment. So for MBS include minimum percentage down payments. Okay, so this one, it belongs to MBS, not RMBS. So C, a minimum percentage down payment, is belong to MBS, not RMBS. Okay, the next one, primary motivation for issuing collateralized collateral mortgage obligation, CMOS, to reduce extension risk, funding costs, contraction risk. Primary motivation for using is reduce extension risk. I think extension risk, because when you buy the bond without anything that back up for you, do you feel like super risky to buy that kind of bond? So normally if we buy bond from the government, of course the government never bankrupt, but for a like corporate bonds, at least they have some kind of like assets, like company, company, and okay, like inventory, and is even have machine, like things to be backed up like that. But if we buy bond without anything to back up, so of course it's very risky. So then issuing CMOS, we call that one collateral mortgage obligation, may allow the issuer to raise funds at a lower cost by creating chances that appeal to investors with different preferences for extension risk and contraction risk. CMOS do not reduce these risks compared to their pool of collateral. They only distribute risks among various CMO changes. This one very difficult. Just remember, like, collateral mortgage, obligation. So obligation.